This isn't a partisan thing. It's it's an assassination attempt
Right.
on a former president. It's the biggest Secret Service failure since Ronald Reagan was shot in the 1980s, and to publicly back them is mind-numbingly stupid, and it raises a bigger point on what do you have to do to be held accountable in this administration? How do you do you fire anybody?
Welcome to The Debrief, where we talk with the Washington Examiner's top journalists about the headlines they're covering and where the story's going next. I'm Sarah Bedford, and I'm here with Managing Editor Chris Irvine.
Hi.
Chris, the U.S. Secret Service is in a lot of trouble after the Trump assassination attempt on Saturday. They're under a lot of scrutiny from lawmakers from both parties. Where do things stand with the Secret Service right now?
Well, I think that's part of the frustration with the fallout of this, is that no one's really kind of quite sure where things stand with the Secret Service. I think we're recording on Thursday. By Monday, we'll start to get some sort of level of accountability from them. They should be appearing in front of House Oversight when everything kind of gets back to, the Republican convention finishes, and then we'll see our usual Republican attack dogs ask them questions. What was particularly galling, I thought, was on Wednesday, there was a briefing with the Secret Service and members of Congress, and the sheer frustration that came out of it, because clearly there was only a couple of questions were answered, and they kind of hurried to get off the phone. There was mounting anger, really, from the likes of Senator John Barrasso, Mike Lee, Marsha Blackburn, and you saw that in real time on Wednesday night at the convention when Cheeto, the head of the Secret Service, was being followed around by senators and demanding answers, and her not giving any. Now, it's maybe not an appropriate time to give answers at that point, but you can see how frustrated and angry people are that they are not getting answers that are sorely needed, and that even extends to the investigation itself, where all these this drip of information is coming out via outlets, and then they reverse course and it's not actually right. And why can't there just be lengthy briefings that kind of explain this is what we know as of this day? I think considering the magnitude of what happened, it's been incredibly shoddy, and heads have to roll. I'm astounded that nobody's been fired over it.
Yeah, on that note, President Joe Biden was asked about this, and he says he has full confidence in his Secret Service director. What's the political value of standing behind the Secret Service director
There's
for
none.
him?
There is none. This isn't a partisan thing. It's it's an assassination attempt on a former president. It's the biggest Secret Service failure since Ronald Reagan was shot in the 1980s, and to publicly back them is mind-numbingly stupid, and it raises a bigger point on what do you have to do to be held accountable in this administration? How do you do you fire anybody? I mean, the other big one I recall was the Afghanistan withdrawal debacle. Heads did not roll there. And eventually the senior military folks that were involved in it were kind of retired out. But at the time, you can say it's maybe an emotional response of I want somebody's head on a plate here, but it's I think it's a very real question. Why is nobody being fired? Why is nobody seemingly being held accountable here? And maybe that's part of the problem, that it was have your feet up on the desk and not worry about this sort of stuff.
That's a good point about Afghanistan. Since in the days since the assassination attempt, we've seen a sort of note of unity, even from Democrats promising to pull back on their rhetoric. That didn't seem to last very long.
No.
But do you think that it could potentially make it difficult for Joe Biden, or increasingly likely his successor nominee, to continue to run the same type of campaign that they're running against literally Hitler, when that kind of language, even the media is not giving that a free pass anymore?
The media is not giving it as much of a free pass, but it's already crept back in, and for all the talk of let's let the rhetoric die down, it just doesn't exist. It was a 24-hour, 48-hour grace period, and then they'll get back into it. It's too easy for them not to do it. It's like a little sugar rush for them. And, you know, we saw some of the kind of doom and gloom that came out on JD Vance being the appointee for Trump's vice presidential pick, and all the kind of, oh, if you thought Trump was scary, then just wait until you find out about JD Vance. And it's like, come on, guys, let's just focus. I know that policy isn't sexy, and it's difficult to sell ratings on that sort of stuff.
Right.
But let's have something of substance here, and maybe you don't need the rhetoric, but it's not going to go away. Absolutely not.
On that last note, on JD Vance, you know, he doesn't bring much to the ticket in terms of pure politics. He's from a safely red state. He's not from a coveted demographic necessarily. But what do you think he does bring to the ticket?
Well, I mean, they're telegraphing that they think that he can help deliver Michigan and Pennsylvania and Wisconsin, which I think, even though Trump is well ahead now, and the pollsters say that he's all but sure to win, both sides clearly see those three states as the three that are ultimately going to matter. And I did find it funny last night in Vance's speech that he kept joking about the Ohio and Michigan rivalry. I'm not from there. I don't know if that's necessarily how big a thing that is.
It's a thing.
If Michiganders would be like, no, I'm not voting for this guy. He's from Ohio. But I think there's some risk there that he maybe doesn't bring something additional to the ticket, and he is seen as that kind of ideologue in some ways. But we'll see. We'll see ultimately. I don't think it expands. It's going to encourage kind of people who are on the fence to vote for Trump. But it will give them a bit more substance when it comes to dealing with policy and a vision for what a second administration would look like. And I think Vance will probably have his fingerprints all over that. So,
well, Chris, thank you so much for being here today.
Yep.
You can get more reporting from Chris and the rest of the political team at washingtonexaminer.com.